How many of the things that you worried about in the past did come true? And when they did, were you able to cope anyway, even if you hadn't worried about them? If you're worrying because you think it helps you solve your problems, you might be mistaken. And here's why. Worrying is going over your thoughts and thinking about the worst case scenarios that could come true without really getting to a solution you can take action on. Worrying can sound like this. My health is declining. What if I get seriously ill? I've always enjoyed doing things with my family, pursue new interests, and go discovering. What if I'm not able to do that if my health declines? What should I do instead? How can I cope? If you think about the past 10 worries that you've had and you've been worrying about them to find solutions, how many of those worries did you find solutions for? And if you did, how good and sustainable were those solutions? And did you come to those solutions because you worried, or is it because you problem solved? Which is a more constructive process where you define the problem, come up with different solutions, and take action on one solution at a time. Problem solving is smooth, it gets you somewhere, whereas worrying only keeps you trapped in a cycle of anxiety and dread and fear. A lot of people have brought up with thinking that worrying is helpful. It helps us find solutions, it helps us prepare for the future and how to cope with things that could be terrible or disappointing. However, worrying is usually a waste of time. Most of the things that we worry about do not come true. I'm sure you can relate. When we worry, our focus is only on the fearful information. It's difficult to see other things that could contribute to us managing this problem in a better way, and we miss out on the ambiguity of the situation or the problem. For example, if someone worries about privacy concerns and their personal information being leaked out to the public, they may be worrying unnecessarily only to make themselves feel terrible. For example, what if someone gains unauthorized access to my personal account or information? What if they use that against me? What if someone copies my identity, pretends that they're me? However, this process does not really help them to come up with any solutions. Worrying leads to coming up with bad solutions. At the same time, it's difficult to implement these solutions. And the reason is that when we worry, we spend a lot of time and resources on the worrying thoughts. That blocks us from gaining access to other important parts of the brain that are responsible for creative thinking and problem solving. That means that we're not able to see all the solutions there may be. So the solutions that we come up with are only based on extinguishing fear and not necessarily coping with the problem in the best helpful way. Another downside of worrying is that worrying activates the fear network in the brain. That means it maintains a sense of threat and anxiety. It makes us continue to feel anxious for a long period of time instead for that anxiety to go away on its own. And a lot of people think that they only need to worry themselves out of their fear before they can take action. So they worry and worry and worry, but that worrying maintains their sense of anxiety. So that way, worrying only becomes a self-fulfilling process that maintains and exacerbates the anxiety. And worrying also makes us only focus on the irrelevant things and the details about a problem rather than looking at the problem as a whole from a different perspective. So let's imagine Ole. Ole is in charge of an important project for his company. The project is huge and involves a lot of uncertainties and a lot of variables. And Ole finds himself worrying constantly about obstacles, budget concerns, and the overall success of this project. Instead of focusing on the task at hand, he worries about all the things that could go wrong, which makes it harder for him to think clearly and make decisions on the spot. This makes him feel stuck and makes him worry even more because he's unable to deal with the task at hand and make smart choices. Ole gets so stuck on all the potential problems that could go wrong that he's unable to move forward and feels very stuck, anxious, and burned out at the end. One reason why people worry so much is that they don't know the difference between worrying and problem solving. A lot of clients that I see tell me that they worry a lot because they didn't know prior to coming to therapy that this was not problem solving. So they worried a lot because they thought that would help them to solve their problems and take care of their problems. Another reason why people worry so much is that they don't know how to problem solve. A lot of problems can seem overwhelming at first, especially if they're not broken down into smaller parts or if you don't have experience with problem solving your problems. So if that's the case, you may revert back to worrying because you think this is your only tool to help you move forward. So let's say I needed to sell my house and I don't know how to do that. This is the first time I've ever sold a house. So I would be tempted to start worrying about the process. I don't know what to do. I've never done this before. What if I don't find someone who's trustworthy, who can help me along the way? What if I get a bad deal? What if I end up not selling the house and I lose a lot of money or I don't find my dream house? But instead of worrying, I could start problem solving. And problem solving involves 5 components, so let's go through them one by one. First component is to decide whether this problem is within your control. Is selling my house within my control? Yes, this is something I can clearly define, find solutions for, and then take action on. So yes, compared to what if something terrible happens to my family? So after deciding that the problem is within my control and solvable, I'm going to define it clearly and make a goal, which is sell my house within the next 3 months. Next, I would find all the different solutions how to get started. For example, I could do a broad Google search to see what kind of realtors there are. I could ask my friend who recently sold their house to see who she worked with and whether that person was trustworthy. I could ask some colleagues, or I can decide to sell my house on my own by taking photos and listing it online. Next, I will decide which of these solutions make the most sense to me, and I will choose one that I'm going to take action on a specific time and a date. For example, I'm choosing to call the different realtors that I've found online, and I'm choosing to ask my friends. So the realtors I will call this afternoon, 4 p.m. when I have some time for myself. On Monday, when I see my friend, I'll ask her about her experience. After taking action, I'll find out if this was a helpful solution or not. If it was helpful, great, I can move forward. If not, I can go back and take the next solution on the list and start implementing right away. Some problems may even benefit from being broken down into smaller parts. For example, Sarah is going to prepare a client presentation in an upcoming project. At first, the task seems daunting and overwhelming, but instead of worrying, she decides to problem solve instead. And part of problem solving is to break the problem into smaller parts. So she's going to brainstorm all the elements that are included in doing a client presentation, which is gathering information, gathering data, looking for updates, visuals and graphs, and practice delivery. And to break it down to even smaller parts, Sarah decides on Monday she will gather the information, on Tuesday the visuals and the graphs, on Thursday practicing the delivery. This way of dealing with problems is less overwhelming and much more helpful in moving forward. However, if Sarah decided to worry at the same time as trying to solve her problem, she may not have been as effective in working on these solutions. And research does show that worrying too much makes it harder for us to come up with better solutions. A recent study investigated how worrying impacts the quality of the solutions that people come up with. The participants in the study were divided into 2 groups. The first group was instructed to think about a real-life problem that they had, and they were to worry about that before they started to brainstorm solutions to that problem. The other group, however, were instructed to not worry, but instead to think about their problem in a neutral and objective manner before they came up with different solutions to that problem. The results were interesting. The group who worried a lot came up with worse solutions, and this was decided by both themselves and the raters of the study. Also, they felt less confident about implementing some of these solutions. Let's say if the problem was how to get better grades. Some of the solutions were avoid going to classes or order more sushi, which was not really helpful. Also, the worry group felt even more anxious. The non-worry group came up with better solutions, and they felt more confident in their ability to act on these solutions. Does this then mean that worrying is dangerous and you should never do it? Of course not. Worrying is not dangerous. However, if your goal is to have a better mental health, to feel less anxious, and to solve your problems in a more constructive way, problem solving is a better strategy for you than worrying. If you're someone who worries more than half an hour every day about your problems in order to find solutions, you may switch over to problem solving instead. And this is how you can do it. Put aside 30 minutes every day or once a week, which is your problem solving time. So let's say once a week on Sundays, 4 p.m., you sit down with a nice drink and pen and paper. Now, first thing is to decide what your problem is and whether it is within your control. What if I get a heart attack is something outside of your control. On the other hand, a problem like I would like to improve my health is more tangible, and this is something you can work on. So next, come up with all the different solutions there may be to solving this problem of improving your health. Do exercise, eat more healthy, eat more vegetables, go to the gym. Choose one of these solutions and decide to act on it on a specific day and specific time. And do that until you're successful. If this doesn't work for you, you can go back to the next solution on your list and start implementing right away. Do that for 1 month and see how that feels. You might discover that things are much easier for you to overcome. The problems are not as challenging as they used to be before because you can break them into smaller parts. And you may find that there's no need to worry about problems when you can problem solve instead. However, some problems are not solvable. They're not tangible, they're potentials. And if you're prioritizing your mental health and you're tired of feeling anxious and worried, it's better for you to reduce how much time you spend worrying. This can be achieved through worry postponement, where you simply postpone worrying about these thoughts when they appear for later. So decide half an hour every day, that is your worry time. The rest of the time, give your mind a break to recover from the worry and help you manage your anxiety better. Thank you for watching.